Shall we now come to questions for Secretary of State, Culture, Media and Sport? Samantha Niblett.
With your permission, Mr Speaker, I'll answer this question with questions 11 and 14. This government is prioritising the growth of our creative industries, who are vital to our economy and showcase the best of creativity and culture. In the last few days alone, I have been pleased to announce £13.5 million worth of funding for 2 new clusters in Liverpool and the West Midlands.
I thank the Secretary of State for her answer, and I just want to expand on it, because in South Derbyshire we have the Melbourne Festival of Art and Architecture that turns 20 next September, and the brilliant Circularity Hub where there's a music studio for people of all abilities to go and use. However, when it comes to young people wanting careers in the creative industries, I wonder what more this government can be doing so that we can thrive in these industries at home and not have to get out to get on.
Secretary of State.
I'm aware of the huge ambition that the Honourable Lady has for South Derbyshire and the contribution that its people can make to our arts and culture and creative industries. This government is supporting those aspirations with a £3 million expansion of the Creative Careers programme so that young people can find those jobs and get access to those opportunities. And with the Education Secretary, we are reviewing the curriculum to put arts and music back at the heart of the national curriculum where it belongs.
Joe Platt.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So many individual artists in places like Leigh and Atherton have great difficulty in accessing funding streams. The trickle down from larger institutions, in many cases, doesn't work and holds back creative growth. So can the Minister outline how funding will reach grassroots artists, empowering them to thrive and play a central role in growing our local economies?
Can I thank my honourable friend for that question? She's done amazing work over the years with the Leigh Film Society and other thriving organisations that really are leading the way. And so I'm well aware from the conversations that she and I have had of the importance, particularly of grassroots societies and venues in places like Leigh and Wigan. We are absolutely determined to put rocket boosters behind them. We're already working on supporting grassroots music venues, supporting voluntary action around a levy, and we are, in addition, helping to channel funding to those smaller organisations so that they can create the pipeline of talent that enables people from places like Leigh to go on and make a national impact.
Dan Norris.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Vengeance most foul isn't just what the public impacted on the party opposite of the general election. It's also the name of the Aardman animation Wallace and Gromit film that's coming out very soon. It will be shown on the BBC on Christmas Day and on Netflix around the world. Could I ask the Secretary of State, please, what she is doing and her wonderful team are doing to promote animation, not just across the west of England and in my constituency, but across the UK, so they can get to even better and greater heights in the future?
Can I thank the honourable member for his question? I'm very happy to be the Gromit to his Wallace. This government has already announced new tax relief for British films and special effects, but we are determined to do more. I know that as Mayor, he's very much championed this issue across his region, and we're working very closely with mayors and local councils to put rocket boosters under their local growth plans, so that whether it's animation, music, arts, sport, creativity, that we can make sure that every part of the country benefits from the success.
Dame Harriett Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Will the Culture Secretary welcome the news that, thanks to levelling up funding, the Malvern Theatres in the West Midlands will be expanding? Planning permission was granted last week, and the opportunity for lots of young people to get jobs in the creative industries will be enabled. So will she come when the new theatre has expanded to open it and meet some of those young people?
I would be absolutely delighted to do so, and can I thank her for her support for theatres, for arts, for culture, and the way in which she's always been a strong voice for them in this place. One of the reasons that we've prioritised expanding the Creative Careers programme is because we're determined that as many parts of the country play their full part in the growth success story that is our creative industries, that young people in those communities get access to those opportunities and go on to have flourishing careers. And I'd be absolutely delighted to come and open the theatre when it's finally done.
We're Hobhouse.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Bath is a city of music. But so many of my musicians in the city and across the UK face enormous bureaucratic barriers when they want to perform in the EU. Can the Secretary of State update me of how progress has been made about this particular issue?
Can I thank her for raising this incredibly important issue? We've heard the message loud and clear from the music industry that the deal that was struck around touring is having a very difficult effect on many, many artists from the UK. We're aware too that that works both ways and that we need a much improved agreement with our friends in the European Union to make sure that their artists can come and perform here, our artists can freely go and perform there, and my honourable friend, the Minister in the Cabinet Office, is currently undertaking those negotiations. We are determined to resolve this issue.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Minister very much for her very enthusiastic response to the questions that have been put forward. Minister, in my constituency of Strangford in the Ards and North Down Borough Council area, to be specific, the issue of creative industries is really important, whether it be arts, whether it be metal sculptures, whether it be music arts, and the Ulster Scots runs through the veins of all of it that's there. Could I invite the Minister to come to Northern Ireland, to come to my constituency of Strangford, to observe and enjoy all that we have there? When you come there, you'll never see anything else like it. Thank you very much.
Can I thank him for that, and just to say that I'm very aware of the enormous contribution that the whole of Northern Ireland makes to our creative industries. I have to confess that my favourite TV show in the world is The Derry Girls. If you can arrange for The Derry Girls to be present, I would be absolutely delighted to visit.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Max Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Small music venues like the Frog and Fiddle in Cheltenham are part of the lifeblood of the creative industries, but the Music Venues Trust has warned that after years of economic pressures in the recent budget, more than 350 venues are on the brink of closure. So how is the government supporting small music venues, and what steps will they take if the voluntary levy on arena and stadium tickets is not agreed by the large venues whose participation is vital?
I'm very grateful to him for this question. My own constituency in Wigan is home to the Verve, and it's very difficult now to know where a band like the Verve would cut their teeth in the industry, because so many of the live music venues that they played in as an up-and-coming band have disappeared. So I very much recognise the problem that he raises. He will know that this government has supported the voluntary levy that the industry has backed, but if they don't implement that levy, then we will be forced to take action, and my honourable friend, the Minister, is writing to the industry in those terms this week.
Luke Meyer.
Question to you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tourism is vital to our coastal towns, and if we are to reach our target of 50 million international visitors to the UK by 2030, we will need to do far better at improving tourism numbers in our coastal towns.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The coastal village of Skinning Grove is home to a fantastic tourist asset, Land of Iron, the leading ironstone mining museum in the country. I'm campaigning for it to receive national status as the National Ironstone Mining Museum. I wonder if the department will consider meeting me to discuss that request and whether they would like to visit.
Minister.
Well, he challenges me a bit, because the Rhondda actually has the best mining museum in the UK. But I'm prepared to concede that in England, he might be right that this is... But look, there's an important point here, which is our mining heritage is a really important part of understanding the country that we have been and the country that we can be in the future. I'm very happy to meet with him. Arts Council England has a specific way of giving a national name to museums, and I'm sure that's one of the things that he might want to apply to them for.
James Wilde.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tourism and hospitality contributes over £500 million and a fifth of all jobs in North West Norfolk. So why is the government hitting those businesses with higher business rates and a jobs tax?
Well,
Minister.
It would also be good, wouldn't it, to have an NHS that worked in this country. It would be good to have an economy that worked in this country. It would be good to have trains that ran on time and a country, frankly, that functions so that when tourists come to this country, they have a good experience rather than sitting on a platform waiting for the train that never turns up on time. I am determined to make sure that we get to 50 million visitors to the United Kingdom. At the moment, last year it was just 38 million visitors. If we're going to secure that, we have to have a country that really welcomes tourists to every part of the country and not just London and the South East.
Shannon, Minister, second that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The budget has created a perfect storm for hospitality and tourism businesses across the country. UK hospitality is sounding the alarm, saying that this budget is a blow for the tourism and hospitality sectors. So can the Minister tell the House, according to his impact assessment, how many jobs will be created as a result of the lowering in threshold in national insurance, and how many businesses will close, as we suspect they will? What does his impact assessment tell him will be the impact on ethnic minority communities, on women and for those with disabilities for whom the tourism and hospitality sector is a huge employer? And finally, can he tell the House whether he even has an impact assessment for one of the most damaging and regressive taxes that we'll ever see?
The Minister needs a debate with all those list of questions. Come on, Minister.
Well, the irony is we've already had 2 debates on these issues over the last fortnight, and thanks to you, Mr. Speaker. Look, first of all, can I welcome the honourable member to his place and his new responsibilities? I look forward to working with him. Look, the truth of the matter is that the tourism industry over the last few years has really struggled, but partly because of Brexit, partly because of COVID. It's still not got back under the last few years of the Conservative government. It's still not got back to the levels that it was before COVID, when we had 41 million visitors to the UK. It's now at 38 million. As I said, I want us to get to 50 million by 2030. The only way we're going to do that is if we significantly improve the offer at every different stage of the experience of visitors coming to the United Kingdom. Yes, there are undoubtedly challenges. I said this in a speech yesterday afternoon. There are undoubtedly challenges for the hospitality industry. But you know what? The thing that really worries me is that historically, we in this country have seen a job in the hospitality industry as just something you have to do when you haven't got another job. I really want to change that. So it's a career you can be proud of. It's respectable. It's something you might do for the whole of your life.
Wendy Morton.
Number 3.
Minister.
Thank you. As set out in our written ministerial statement yesterday, the Government will introduce a statutory levy on gambling operators, which was a commitment made as part of the Gambling White Paper in 2023. Society lotteries will be charged the levy at the lowest rate of 0.1%. I know they are a vital fundraising tool for many charities, community groups and sports clubs up and down the country.
Wendy Morton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I refer to my entry in the Register of Member Interest, but the Minister quite clearly recognises the contribution, as we all do, that society lotteries make to our own constituencies through various organisations. But does she recognise that the not-for-profit society lotteries will have to fund any levy due from their charitable return, which the sector, and I think many of us actually feel, amounts to a charity tax?
Minister.
My understanding was it was after the good causes that the money had gone to good causes, but I'm obviously not the Gambling Minister. The Gambling Minister sits in the other place, and I'll happily arrange a meeting for her with the Gambling Minister.
Sonia Kumar.
Question number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you. Well, the Government is committing to making sure the Community Wealth Fund delivers meaningful benefits across England. That's why we have allocated £87.5 million of dormant assets funding towards it. We will set out our position on the key design principles of the Community Wealth Fund shortly.
Sonia Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that Russell's Hall in Dudley ranks within the top 2% of areas with the greatest need in the local index, and nearly half the working age our residents rely on benefits, can the Minister confirm what steps the Government will be taking to target places like mine that are doubly disadvantaged?
Minister.
Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for her question. I know the area of Dudley very well, and I know she is a strong advocate for the area she represents. I would like to reassure her that this Government is committed to supporting those places in need through the Community Wealth Fund. We are working at pace on the details and delivery of the fund, and we will set out the next steps in due course.
Nick Timothy.
Question number 5, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
I know that the Honourable Gentleman is a huge champion for horse racing, and this Government is very well aware of the value of horse racing to the UK. It supports 85,000 jobs here, has an annual economic contribution to the UK economy of £4.1 billion, and is the second best attended sport in Britain.
Nick Timothy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure it's in order to raise the travesty of the refereeing decision last night in the Aston Villa versus Juventus match, but I thought I'd give it a try. The Secretary of State has been very warm about the horse racing industry, and I'm very grateful for that. It's a vital part of the economy in West Suffolk and indeed nationwide. I've raised before with her and her ministerial team about the need to reform the betting levy and affordability checks, so I'd be grateful if she could give us an update for the timeline for any action for that.
So we believe that the horse racing betting levy is vital for the financial sustainability of the sport and for the thousands of fans. I can update him that the Minister for Gambling recently met representatives from horse racing and betting to encourage a voluntary deal that fairly reflects the relationship between racing and betting. We expect an update from the BHA and BGC on progress by the end of the year.
Let's have the Shadow Minister that won't follow the first hurdle, Louis French.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The horse racing industry has been left in the dark by this government following the Chancellor's disastrous budget. The OBR warned that the national insurance rise will cost on average £800 per employee. With 20,000 people employed across the country, this government's jobs tax could cost the horse racing industry £16 million and the gambling sector up to £100 million, and that's even before their new levies. So, will the Secretary of State tell the House if her department has made any assessment of the impact of the increase in national insurance contribution on the industry, how many jobs will be lost, how many training yards and courses will close, and how many of the 500 independent bookies will shut?
Well, can I just gently say to the honourable gentleman, whilst welcoming him to his place, that he is well aware that in the decisions that we took in the recent budget, we have protected the smallest businesses. More than half of businesses will either pay less or the same as they currently do. And I have to say to him that we will take no lectures from the party opposite about how to run the economy. After 14 years and the mess that they left this country in, it really does take some brass neck to stand at that dispatch box and attack the other side.
Imran Hussain.
Number 6, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you. Well, of course, grassroots sports makes a huge contribution to communities up and down the country, providing sport and physical activity opportunities, a chance to socialise, learn new skills, while supporting people's health and well-being. And of course, the government is supporting people to get active through our £123 million into our multi-sport grassroots facilities programme.
Imran Hussain.
I thank the Minister. Mr Speaker, grassroots boxing gyms, like many other grassroots sports, offer their local communities unparalleled benefits. They are community hubs, they build skills and confidence and become safe spaces for young people to grow their talent. And as chair of the APPG on boxing, I was delighted to launch 2 reports earlier this year that highlighted the huge social benefits. Unfortunately, these gyms remain very unfunded and rely almost entirely on the goodwill of volunteers. So will the Minister meet with me and the all-party parliamentary group to discuss dedicated grassroots funding to be included as part of the sports strategy?
Well, I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman for that question. I know he's a huge advocate for boxing. I was pleased to speak with him about it a few weeks ago. I have seen firsthand the impact that boxing can have. I know England Boxing was given £6.8 million by Sport England in 2022, and I'd be delighted to meet with him to discuss the issue further.
Chair of the Select Committee, Dame Caroline Dowdy.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. The Minister knows that grassroots sports provide enormous health and economic and welfare and community benefits. And that's the reason why today the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee is launching an inquiry we're calling Game On. It's looking into community, grassroots, school sports as well, and the interventions that are needed to improve it. So I'd like to ask the Minister what conversations she's had with her counterpart in the Department of Education about how they can work collaboratively to build a lifelong love and passion for sport and the benefits for young people's health and well-being.
I'm incredibly grateful to the Chair of the Secretary for that really important question. Worked really closely with the Department of Education. I chaired a roundtable with the Schools Minister on grassroots sport and how we can get sport into schools. I also convened a meeting on women's sport where the Department of Education were present as well. So I'd be delighted to discuss it further, and I know the Secretary of State would like to do so too.
Natasha Ives.
Speaker. On Tuesday, I chaired the... No, I'm so sorry. Question number 8, Mr Speaker.
After 14 years in this place, I still make the same mistake, so I'm very grateful when other people do too. This government is co-producing a new national youth strategy with young people to really grip the challenges of a generation. When I entered the department, I was shocked to find that there was no single youth strategy, and whilst there is a lot of good work that the last government funded around youth, I think we can all agree that the challenges facing this generation are immense, and we need to do far, far more in order to support them.
Natasha Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Tuesday, I chaired the APPG on Youth Affairs, where we discussed this government's plans for a national youth strategy with over 80 young people and organisations from across the sector, including grassroots organisations like Reaching Higher from my constituency that are supporting young people and families across Croydon. Now, whilst the national plan for young people is urgent, the 73% cut of funding for youth services under the previous government has left what the National Youth Agency reports as 4,500 youth workers leaving the sector over the last decade. So can the Secretary of State outline how her national youth strategy will support youth workers and attract more people back to this vital work?
Well, the youth strategy is an opportunity to look afresh at the training, recruitment and retention of youth workers. She will know that my first job was at the youth homelessness charity Centrepoint before I came into this place, and I am aware of the vital work that youth workers do. They are a lifeline for young people, and those relationships matter disproportionately to whether a young person succeeds or fails. My department works with the National Youth Agency to fund training bursaries for individuals who may otherwise have been excluded due to cost. We're very well aware that some of the people who make the best youth workers are people who've had some of those experiences themselves, and we're very committed to working with her and her APPG to making sure that we get this right.
Rebecca Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Young Devon provide essential services for young people across Devon, including supported accommodation and mental health provision. When I met with them on Friday, they told me that the increased employers' national insurance contribution will cost them at least £90,000 to stand still. That's 100 fewer young people counselled and 8 fewer beds offered. What conversations has the Honourable Lady had with the Chancellor to ensure that charities like Young Devon don't have to reduce their valuable services as a result of the budget?
Well, can I thank her for that question? And it's lovely to hear about the work that Young Devon are doing, that she's supporting in her constituency. My honourable friend, the Minister for Civil Society, has had a number of roundtables with the sector to discuss this specific issue to make sure that we're providing the right help and support. She will know that under the announcements that we made in the budget, we announced plans to raise the threshold at which businesses and charities will pay, so that half of charities, the smaller charities, will either pay less or the same as they currently do. Charities can also benefit from relief on employer contributions, which is worth around £6 billion a year. We believe that this government is taking action to protect the sector, but when we launched the Civil Society Covenant of just a few weeks ago, we made clear that we want a genuine partnership with charities. They are welcome at the heart of Downing Street, and that's why my honourable friend, the Minister, will continue to do so.
Come on, folks.
Thank you. Question number 9, please, Speaker.
Thank you. As set out following the Euro 2024 final, the Government is committed to supporting grassroots football clubs and facilities. The Government is investing £123 million this year to deliver pitches for grassroots football across the UK. Alongside this, the Government is supporting the Football Association's ambition to double the number of 3-star community clubs across the country.
Thank you for the detailed answer and all the work that you're doing to support grassroots football. In my constituency of Nuneaton, we have many grassroots football clubs and understand the importance and the contribution to the town. This includes Nuneaton Town and Nuneaton Griff football clubs, both of which have struggled recently, especially in securing a ground and have to share with their competitors in Bedworth. And while we appreciate the hospitalities, we would like to meet with ministers and talk about how to bring football home to Nuneaton. Thank you.
Minister.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for that question. I recognise the huge contribution that grassroots clubs have, like the ones that my honourable friend has outlined, make to communities. I've seen that firsthand in my own constituency in Barnsley. I also appreciate the number of challenges they face, and I'd be very happy to meet with my honourable friend to discuss the options available.
Andrew Snowden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Grassroots football is obviously supported very much by medium and larger community-based football clubs such as AFC Fylde in my constituency, Chorley FC in the Speakers, and Wigan Athletic in the Secretary of State. Wigan also obviously very sadly posted a £13 million loss for the last financial year. So how does the Secretary of State feel that that club will be able to make themselves more financially resilient following the significant impact the national insurance contributions impact will have on their finances?
Minister. He asked a very important point, and that is why we're continuing the work of the previous government by introducing our own football governance bill that will hopefully put football on a sustainable footing.
Rosie Ratty.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Kettering Town FC are currently the leading FA Cup goal scorers and are in the second round of the Men's FA Cup on Sunday. Will the Minister please join me in wishing the Poppies very best of luck in their game on Sunday and tell the House what steps she's taking to improve the financial resilience of local clubs like Kettering Town FC?
Well, I'm incredibly grateful to the Honourable Lady for her question. Of course, I would like to put on record my huge good luck, thanks and congratulations. And of course, the work we're doing to support grassroots football through our multi-sport facilities programme will hopefully grow the grassroots game.
Gregory Camp.
Mr Speaker, the Minister will be aware there's a sub-regional stadia strategy in Northern Ireland. Would she have discussions with my colleague, the Minister for Communities in Northern Ireland, to see what assistance, information and possible additional resources can be deployed to ensure that there is widespread development of grassroots football in Northern Ireland?
Well, I have previously had discussions with my counterpart in Northern Ireland. I will be delighted to do so again, and I'm hoping to visit Northern Ireland in the coming months.
Ben Goldsborough.
Question number 10, please.
Minister.
Historic England assesses applications for listing, and I want that process to be as simple as possible for community groups up and down the land, so that they can steer a balance between preserving what is truly valuable and leaving communities with decaying listed eyesores.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. In Long Stratton, there is a beloved former local authority building called South Norfolk House. It has won numerous awards for its innovative architecture and its ahead-of-its-time design focus around energy efficiency, but it's been refused listed status. This could be a fantastic community asset for the town, providing an arts hub. So will the Minister meet with me to discuss its future?
Minister.
I'm very happy to meet with my honourable friend. I always have to be a little bit careful about decisions that might end up coming to me. In case I've queered the pitch, as it were. So I do want to pay tributes to I think it's Councillor Race in his constituencies, who's spent a great deal of time, and I know many community groups up and down the land have tried to do precisely the same thing, to bring a historic building back into community use, and obviously we want to support that wherever we possibly can, where it is long-term sustainable.
Right, we come to topicals. Mambala put together.
Oh, number 1, Mr Speaker, sorry.
Secretary.
My department is firing on all cylinders, Mr Speaker. In the last few weeks, we've launched the National Youth Strategy, introduced the Football Governance Bill, appointed Baroness Shriti Vadera to chair the Creative Industries Council, launched 2 new creative clusters in Birmingham and Liverpool, and yesterday I announced a levy to tackle harmful gambling.
Mambala put together.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Sports clubs in my constituency, such as Shipston Rugby Club and Stratford Sports Club, are doing fantastic work with our young people. But for rural constituency like Stratford-on-Avon, where sports play a vital role in youth engagement, the impact of extreme weather events means that many sports clubs consistently lose access to their facilities to do flooding throughout the year. Can the Minister confirm whether the new youth strategy will consider the challenges posed by the climate on youth sports activities?
She will know that for young people in particular, the climate crisis is an enormous priority. As she knows, we've announced that we're co-producing and creating the National Youth Strategy with young people. I would be amazed if the impact of climate change on the things that matter most to them isn't a central part of that strategy.
Rachel Maskell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My constituent, Amanda Martin, is a phenomenal artist, painting the most outstanding designs and then placing them on stationery. However, Temu and Shein are ripping off her and many artists' work in breach of intellectual property controls, undercutting her business at serious cost. What steps will the Minister take to protect artists and their businesses and ensure that these online retailers are held to account?
Minister.
Look, copyright and the protection of artists' moral and economic rights is absolutely essential part of making sure that artists are properly remunerated for their creativity, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that the copyright regime remains and is strong and is strongly enforced.
Shadow Secretary of State, Stuart Andrew.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr Speaker, and a very happy birthday to the Clerk of the House. Whether arts, sport, music, hospitality or tourism, we have heard time and again today and in the past few weeks that the government's jobs tax could cost the sectors in her department £2.8 billion. Was the Secretary of State blindsided by the budget like the DEFRA Secretary claims, or was she aware, and has she done, as we've asked several times, a sector-by-sector impact assessment, and if not, why not, and if so, will she publish it?
Can I just gently say to the honourable gentleman that unlike the last government, we do actually like one another and work together across government. And so I had a number of discussions about the budget with my honourable friend, the Chancellor, in advance. She is very aware of the importance of creative industries and to all of our sectors to the UK economy. That's why we've put them at the heart of our industrial strategy and our economic plan. And we're working closely with industry to make sure that they continue to thrive.
Andrew? So it sounds like she did know, which is interesting given that she cares about charities as much as I do, and they face a £1.4 billion bill when they needed help the most. We gave them £100 million. Her government is now going to take 14 times that amount back from them. We heard yesterday that the Teenage Cancer Trust will have to find an extra £300,000, and Marie Curie are reporting having to find nearly £3 million. So where does the Secretary of State suggest that organisations like those find the money to pay this charity tax, and who will fill the gaps if charities have to scale back on the work as a result of this government's decisions?
Well, look, under the last government, charities were facing a perfect storm. Not only did they get very little in the way of support from the government, and in fact were silenced and gagged and told by one of the charities ministers to stick to their knitting, which is deeply offensive in my view, but they also were dealing with the rising pressures of the cost of living crisis and the mess that his government made of running this country. Our government is determined to take action on that. We were elected on a pledge to do so. We are protecting our charities as part of the budget announcements, as I've outlined to his colleagues previously. But frankly, I will take no lectures from the party opposite about how to run this country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In 2021, the UK exported £9.1 billion of creative goods and £45.6 billion of creative services. But we can and must do better. So can I press the Minister on what she is doing to support creative industries' coordinated strategy for growth?
Oh, which one? Who wants it?
You can see how eager we are to chomping at the bit to support the creative industries. He'll know that we've announced a series of measures over the last few months since we took office to support the creative industries, including tax credits for independent film and special effects. We're broadening the curriculum to make sure that there's a pathway through for young people to be able to work in our creative industries. And we held an international investment summit, of which the creative industries were absolutely central. We'll be announcing more in due course.
Ollie Oliver. Ollie Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Council-owned art centres in my Oxfordshire constituency, such as Cornerstone in Didcot and the Beacon in Wantage, are facing rising energy costs and staffing costs. Given most external funding sources do not support operating costs, will the Secretary of State press Cabinet colleagues to support multi-year funding settlements for local government to help art and culture thrive?
Yes.
Dr. Rupert Huck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since my sale of tickets for events transparency bill was announced, I've been deluged with suggestions and support worldwide from people not wanting another Oasis-style ticket scam. So I wondered, can ministers meet with me to discuss working together on this? Because there's a chance that on December the 6th, opposition MP shenanigans will sink the thing without trace.
Can I thank her for raising an issue that is incredibly important to fans up and down this country? This government acted decisively with my honourable friend, the Business Secretary. We have announced a consultation in order to put fans back at the heart of the way that ticketing is done in this country. The consultation will consider how best to do this, not whether to do it, and we will be announcing more about this imminently.
Sir John Whittingdale.
Can I commend the House of Lords Communications Committee report on the future of news, which highlights the threat from the unauthorised use of news content to train AI models. Will she urgently consider strengthening the legislation in this area and consider the introduction of a licensing scheme as is recommended?
Can I thank him for his question on what I know is of huge concern, not just to him, but to the Chair of the Select Committee and to many members in this House. My honourable friend, the Minister, is, as he knows, sits across both DCMS and DSIT and has taken a keen interest in this. We have read the House of Lords Select Committee report, and we're considering its recommendations currently, and I will be in a position to update him shortly about the action that this government intends to take.
You, Mr. Speaker. Hazelrig Victory Club are just one of many fantastic football clubs across my constituency, run by local champions for the benefit of our community. They've shared that too often pitches are of poor quality and are eye-wateringly expensive to hire. How can we make sure that the Big Dan Burns and Grace Donnellys of the future have access to appropriate facilities?
Our government is acutely aware that there really aren't enough facilities in communities across the UK, particularly to keep pace with demand. We know that these facilities are a visible symbol in our communities of whether we value our children and young people, whether we value those communities and whether we stand with them. We are working with the FA and the Premier League to create new state-of-the-art facilities across the country to inspire stars of the future, and I'll be very delighted to have a further discussion with her about that to make sure that it benefits her.
Mr. Speaker, in Brighton Pavilion we love our grassroots music venues, and we often need to make robust use of the agent of change principle to protect them in licensing and planning, but it's hard work for everyone to enforce and ensure this happens. Can the Minister tell me if she is having any discussions with the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government about putting the agent of change principle on a statutory footing?
Yes, those meetings have already taken place and will continue to take place. She makes a very good point, and I know that Brighton Pavilion, because I've visited many times, there are other music venues which I hope will be able to come online in the near future. I know that the Secretary of State met with Ed Sheeran last week, because she's told me about it about 25 times, to discuss precisely this issue.
Jill Jarman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A recent report by FSB Wales highlights the thriving creative businesses that exist in coastal areas like mine. What can the Minister do to increase awareness of these and ensure that the next round of the Creative Clusters programme focuses on areas like Clwyd North?
I was very pleased to visit Blackpool recently to see the incredible work that Blackpool Pleasure Beach is doing. We know that coastal communities have an enormous role to play in our creative industries, and we're absolutely determined to do everything that we can to support them. They have a very, very special place in the life of the nation. I think most people holidayed there as children. We care very much that they continue to thrive into the future, and I'll be in a position to update the House soon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mountbatten Hospital, which serves my constituency and wider Hampshire, receive 70% of their income through charitable donations, and they have told me and my honourable friend, the member for Isle of Wight East, that their viability is under risk because of the national insurance contributions policy that this government has brought forward. Can she outline what pressure she will be bringing onto the Treasury to make sure that this policy changes, because the charitable sector is in real danger under this government's decision?
My honourable friend, the Health Secretary, and I have already had a discussion about the particular situation facing hospices. It's something that he is acutely aware of and is working with the hospice movement in order to provide the best possible support.
Alan Strickland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Secretary of State join me in congratulating Newton Aycliffe Youth Football Club on being awarded runner-up in FA Club of the Year in Durham? And will she join me in congratulating all of the parents, volunteers and young people involved in grassroots sports?
Can I thank him for being such an outstanding champion for his community, and of course extend my warmest congratulations to Newton Aycliffe. But he's right to highlight the invaluable contribution that families make to the success of young people. They often pitch in as volunteers, as coaches, taking children and young people to those matches, come rain or shine, and I imagine in his neck of the woods like mine it's more often rain than shine, and I'm really glad that they have such a good champion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Sports Minister graciously met with me in order to discuss the future of London Irish in my Spelthorne constituency, and she undertook to ensure that they would get the meeting they desired so desperately with Sport England. And I wonder if the Minister could give us an update.
Well, I was grateful for the honourable gentleman to come in to speak to me about it. I will speak to my officials and make sure we approach Sport England very speedily.
Final question, Alison Hume.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I would like to highlight the richly deserved conferment of the King's Award for Voluntary Service to the 60 volunteers at Newby and Scorby Library in Scarborough. Their services are innovative, like a summer reading challenge for children, an IT buddy service and a garden growing produce. Will the Secretary of State or Minister join with me in congratulating Newby and Scorby Library on their award and for the enormous contribution they make to our community in Scarborough?
Very happy to congratulate them and thank her for drawing attention to the enormous work that libraries do in helping to promote children's literacy in this country, which couldn't be more important.
Right, so we've no completed questions.